Ian Crisp from Coastal Oysters. Me and my wife Rose have been farming here for close to 30 years and I'm currently the president of the local Manning River Oyster Farmers Association. We farm right across the river. We have leases from Scotts Creek down the main channel right down through to close to Manning Point. So here in a river like this one where it's a large catchment, we can get quite heavy rainfall in that catchment, and because it's a river system it takes some time for that to clear. So it's always about cattle effluent and management of riverbank fencing and keeping cattle out of our waterways. Not that cattle effluent will affect oysters, it just affects our quality of our water, and then we have to close if we have high fecal coliforms as a result of animal effluent. So that's one of the key ones. The other one, obviously, in the floodplain is acid sulfate soils and the overdraining of some of our hotspot areas, which is a 100-year-old problem. That does have an impact on oysters, and that can certainly knock us out, in a serious way. So we're very, very keen to make sure that we continue to work with Midcoast Council on all the acid sulfate soil stuff we've been dealing with. If you go back in the history of oyster production in the Manning, there were areas like Guinea Creek and Lansdowne River and Cat-Eye Creek were all highly productive areas for oysters, and oysters existed naturally on the banks. Now they're long gone from those areas. So overdrainage of our floodplain, oxidised acid sulfate soils basically just pollutes that waterway to the point where oysters and nothing else really lives in there. I mean, at the moment, during a long dry spell, we would see fish and crabs and prawns and oysters probably recolonising in those areas. But as soon as we get the right amount of rainfall and mobilises that acid in the system, it'll knock that marine life out. We're very keen to continue to support projects like the Big Swamp and see areas remediated and bought back if necessary, and spend some money on it, because the upside of it is, we improve a waterway, then if it's good for us, it's good for everybody. So, everybody's going to benefit from it. We really started to get some ground probably about 15 years ago when the then Taree Council started to get some really good people on board, and we started to see some real action in terms of what farmers were doing in terms of cleaning drains and continuing to drain those low areas. That basically started to reverse. Then we had council come on board with purchasing the Big Swamp and the Cat-Eye wetlands, and then starting to remediate that. We've certainly seen improvement in reduced acid flows into the river. What we will see, and we already are seeing it, is really good oyster shell production back out in the main river. So we're getting phenomenal oyster growth in the main channel now, and which we haven't seen for a long time, and I don't know whether I've ever seen it as good as it is, which is great. It's good for the industry, and I want to certainly see the industry here rebuild and reinvest and grow. We've partnered with the Recreational Fishing Trust Fund, and that was a huge win for the river. We got a lot of money from them. We had a landowner who also contributed a fair bit of dough, and then council came on board and matched that. It was a really big project for here, and it was a very good outcome. That area is now already recolonising with mangroves like you wouldn't believe, and so it's real. All the oysters have recolonised along that rock fillet we put in. The mangroves are coming up, so that secured the bank for that farmer. But more importantly, it's for us, it's settled down. It's just improved water quality issues in that area. So the rock filleting is basically just putting a row of quarry rocks between 300 and 500 mil that just go underwater at about a bit over a mean tide, and you step it off the bank that might be eroding, and what it does is just creates a little wave barrier that allows the natural seeds, mangrove seeds, to be trapped in there and recolonise those areas. And you couple that with getting the cattle out, because cattle love eating mangroves. They'll get in there and chew all them up. So you get the cattle out, put that rock fillet in, and nature will do the rest. And it does it very, very quickly. We have an environmental levy now with Midcoast Council, which started out here with the Taree City Council. That money is being put to good use. There's lots of things we can still address in terms of catchment management, and there will always be something that we can deal with, that we need to deal with. But if we've got a good environmental levy in place, we've got a community that supports that, then they can be confident that we're improving the system. We're not degrading the system. We're going out there to make sure that, future generations are going to have a pretty good place to play or work in. Most people on the coast really appreciate having an oyster industry there. And if they know it's there, then generally most people know that estuary or river is in pretty good health. So having an oyster industry, regardless of the size of it, operating and being reasonably successful in any river or estuary is a good thing for the valley. And people should really, and I think they do, they do see that as an asset and a reason why, you would want to live here is, yes, we have a great oyster industry, we can buy oysters. And we know that, I don't like using the word custodians of the river, but the reality is we are here every day, we see what's going on every day, and we have a vested interest in what, on how that river's managed and what input we can have on it. And hopefully, leave it in as good or better state than when we took it over.